Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stirring It Up with MitoYDNA.org. My name is Johnny Pearl, and I will be your host today. And I would like to introduce you to the MitoYDNA team in alphabetical order by first name, because that's how I printed it out. We have Gail French of DNA Adoption. We have Greg Clark, also of the Ontario Association of Mathematics Educators. Not joining us today, but nevertheless a part of the team, is Jamie Nelson of WikiTree. We have Kevin Borland of Borland Genetics. We have Leanne Kruger of iFamily History and the Alberta Genealogical Society. She's also on the Ancestry.ca advisory board. We have Mags Golden of WikiTree and also blogging at Grandma's Genes. We've got Peter Roberts, also of WikiTree and WikiHelix. And finally, we have Rob Wathen of DNA GEDCOM and DNA Adoption, and also Genetic Family. Let's not leave any attributions out here. So many thanks for tuning in today. What I would like to do to start off is just to give us some grounding. Why are we all here? And so I'd like to ask Mags, how did this whole MitoYDNA thing actually get started?
You know, back in 2017, there were lots of rumors running around that YSearch and MitoSearch, the two existing Y and mitochondrial DNA databases for people to do tools and analysis and matching with, were going to be shut down because of privacy concerns. All the GDPR stuff was just starting to explode then. And I actually went to a conference in Houston that FTDNA does, which is a really good conference for FTDNA project admins. And I had a brief meeting with Bennett Greenspan at the meeting. And my offer was to take over those two databases that were free and accessible to the community. I offered to take those over, and there were too many concerns about privacy and other issues, and was very politely declined. I walked out the door of the Houston conference that next morning, and Peter Roberts was sitting in the vestibule of the hotel waiting for me, and he was just looking at me like a lost puppy. And I just shook my head. The answer was no. And he was like so deflated that I just felt like we had to do it just for Peter. No, really. I looked at him and I said, "No worries, Peter, I got this." And the reason that we have MitoYDNA today is that myself, Peter, Gail, Rob, Kevin, Greg, Leanne, all of us, you, Johnny, and Jimmy, there are so many people in the genealogy community
It's not
who
working,
were mourning
is it?
the loss of that.
What's wrong?
And he wanted to get
Dave?
we wanted to make sure that
It
resource
isn't here. Why
didn't
not?
disappear completely. We wanted to make sure that it was available, and that there was a Y and mitochondrial DNA database that the community could
can't see
access
us?
and actually use the tools and analysis. So that's basically why MitoYDNA.org started.
Amazing. And so in terms of the phases
It's up
of the
on
website, what have those been?
They've been pretty
Okay.
interesting.
What's the link?
We started out, lost my graphic here. It started out where we had just team building going on. I talked to Gail French at the very next, after the FTDNA conference. I talked to Gail French at the next big conference, which was Roots Tech. And I said, "Gail, don't tell anybody. Just, be mum about this, but this is my idea. I want to get a Y and mitochondrial DNA database started." And I wondered, and before I could even finish, he was like, I'm in. And I'm like, "Shh, don't tell anybody." So Gail wanders off, and within 10, 15, 20 minutes, Rob Worthen wanders over. He says, "Hey, I was just talking to Gail, and..." So then we added Rob. So Rob and Gail and I kind of did team building. We brought people in. Peter was already a part of the team. And we just started adding people that added a certain resource of programming or legal help or beautification in the case of Greg Clark. And some of the work that you've done for us too, Johnny, to make our site what it is. So the basic first phase was team building and starting that 501c3 corporation
So it says
to try and make sure that we had a board and we had some responsibilities to the board so that we could try and beautification in the case of Greg Clark, community, and some of the work that you've done for us, having a nonprofit corporation to oversee it, which is really important. The basic first phase, that's what that first phase was. The second phase was building the site, getting the site started, and actually getting the site starting that up and running and getting beta testers in and getting the testing all done. We try and make sure that we had a board. And then the third phase that we've just entered is where we're starting to gather beautification in the case of Greg. Some tools that are existing, some of the work that you've done for us, having a nonprofit corporation. We hope people want to add. If you're a basic first phase, that's what that first phase was. The second phase was building the site, getting the site started, and actually getting the site up and running and getting beta testers in and getting the testing all done. We try and make sure that we'll talk about that later. You're going to ask Peter a question, and that might be in the fourth phase, and we'll talk about that then.
Okay, very good. So I wondered if everyone's okay with this, if we could go around very quickly and everyone could just say, you know, where do you live? Where do you live, Megs?
I live in Ontario.
Very good. And Leanne, perhaps you could tell me where you live.
Alberta, Canada.
Okay, we have a Canadian contingent here. Greg, where do you live?
Ontario, Canada.
Really? Wow, I actually knew that. Yeah. And Kevin, fill me in.
I am in Kenansville, Florida, right in the middle of Florida.
Very good. And Peter, how about you? You seem to live in a forest.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Ah, a great city. Yeah, excellent. And Rob, tell me.
I'm in the middle of Maryland.
Very good. And finally, Gail.
What's that?
So you don't know my name or anything?
Gail from Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. Excellent. Very near where it all happened, I guess, than what Mags was describing.
I can see it on here.
Oh, it's not letting me post.
Superb. And well, why don't we stay with you, Gail? I mean, why did you volunteer with MyToYDNA.org in the first place?
Well, my role at DNA
click on that.
is
the right link?
teaching the YDNA class. And so I was very interested in Y and then used YDNA and the YSearch database in trying to find my father's biological father, he was an NPE. So I used YSearch extensively in trying to find his biological father. So when it went away, I was heartbroken and really wanted to see it come back.
Sure. Very good. Would anybody else like to tell me the story of why they volunteer with MyToYDNA.org?
This is Peter in Atlanta. I was very interested. I'm a heavy user of WikiTree. And I was very much interested in being able to associate Y chromosomes with direct paternal lines and mitochondrial DNA with direct female lines, direct maternal lines. And I was doing that. We were doing that with MitoSearch and YSearch. And anyway, we needed the replacement. And so MitoYDNA fits the bill perfectly.
Superb.
That's a good question.
And Kevin, I know that you were perhaps a later addition to the team. Is that right? What was your hookup?
Yeah, I was kind of late to the industry actually, so I came. So I met all these guys at RootsTech about 2 years ago. By coincidence, we were in the same hotel, and they invited me in, and I had really missed YDNA, and I use that a lot. The YSearch, I use that a lot. I was really bummed out when it had gone away. So I was excited to be part of a group that could, replace that with something better and grow it in the way that we're trying to do.
That's great. Yeah. See, for me personally, I must have come so late to the party that I could never even get YSearch to work for me. So I wasn't able to miss it because I'd never been able to appreciate it. That was my situation. How about you, Greg? Because I haven't seen your name associated with this until quite recently, I think.
Yes, Megs just invited me to join the team earlier in the spring. I'm also involved on WikiTree. When I connected with my biological family, I decided I would start my family tree fresh somewhere, and I chose WikiTree. And most recently, I've been doing some apps, and I created a fan chart app. And Megs and Peter are both fans of my fan chart, so they invited
Yeah,
me.
who isn't? Who isn't? And so let's talk about what people do outside of MITRE Y-DNA. Greg, let's stay with you. I mean, what do you do for a living, or what did you what did you do? How does that work out?
I'm a retired math and computer science high school teacher, and even though I'm retired, I'm still involved with the Ontario Association for Math Education as their webmaster, and so that's that keeps me busy. I'm also the music director at our local Catholic church, and we've just started going back to Mass after 3 months of nothing. So
congratulations. Yeah, so you have math and music together, which I also have. It's interesting to see how that happens, and I think Kevin may be another exponent of that. So Kevin, I understand you've actually got a very busy career outside of MITRE Y-DNA. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. I guess I'm kind of working two jobs. I'm working about 10 hours in the daytime as a lawyer, remotely right now, but typically I would go into the office for that. And then I've got Borland Genetics on the side, which is an autosomal database and reconstruction tools that I've been working on which is what brought me to RootsTech a couple of years ago.
Sure, of course. And are you thinking about ever taking Borland beyond autosomal, or are you going to focus all of your Y and MITRE energies on mitrey.org?
Probably the latter, unless I do something with maybe
Max will be pleased to hear that,
of the Y or something like that. But yes, devoted to MITRE Y for that.
Very good. And another person I've always known as a Y-DNA enthusiast is you, Gail. Can you tell us a bit about what you do besides MITRE Y?
I am retired from IBM. I worked with IBM at the Johnson Space Center here in Houston, and I worked on every manned space program from Apollo through space station. So I am a rocket scientist if you ever need one. So after that, I involved with DNA adoption as part of my search for my father's biofather, and I met Rob and some other people from DNA GEDCOM who asked me since I learned so much about Y, if I would teach their Y-DNA class for DNA adoption. So I said, sure, give me the material. And they said, no, we don't have any material. You have to develop it. So
that's the best way to learn, is to teach.
That's a learning process. Yes, the best way to learn something is to teach it. So
absolutely.
Yep. So that's how I started with DNA adoption. And
superb. Rob, I'd like to hear from you. You seem like a pretty relaxed guy. I don't think you've got much else going on apart from this. Is that right?
I don't think I do much else. I do have a DNA GEDCOM running, and I'm obviously helped out with MITRE Y-DNA. One of the co-founders of DNA adoption. My wife was adopted, and I got involved in this 2012, 2013, pretty much when all the autosomal stuff came out. So it's been fun. It's been interesting to see this grow and get bigger and stuff like that. But like Kevin, I still do a part-time job, or I know Kevin does a full-time job. I have a part-time job on the side just to pay for some of the bills and stuff like that. But it's been fun.
Sure. Well, it's good to be busy, isn't it? It's better than not being busy. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. How about you, Leanne? You seemed a little tied up before, so I didn't visit you. Could you tell us about what you do outside of MITRE Y-DNA?
Sure. I have my own, I speak at a lot of conferences. That's how I met Megs, was at the Ontario Genealogical Conference. And I help with Ancestry.ca advisory. So I write some blogs for them and try out new things. And I also help volunteer with the Alberta Genealogical Society for many years.
Very good. Let's visit Peter now. Peter, can you tell us about what you do? I know you're on WikiTree most of your time. But what else do you do?
He clearly likes trees too.
I'm a retired archivist from Georgia State University, and my retirement job now is working at the Georgia Aquarium.
Superb.
But I also do lectures and consulting with genetic genealogy.
Very cool. And finally, Mags, tell us about your existence beyond MitoY. Clearly very dominant in your life, but what else have you got going on over there?
MitoY is a very dominant part of my life because it's something I really believe in. I also believe in the genetic genealogy community and the genealogy community. So I do things like I help with ISOG with their Facebook group. I do have a blog and a business, Grandma's Genes, which is a genetic genealogy consulting business here, where I do a lot of government contracts because I'm in the capital of Canada. I have the ability to work on some government contracts, and I have some really cool contracts going on, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but those are fun. I also do consulting and mentoring with people who need help on how to work their own family. I've helped adoptees find their birth families, and I've helped birth families find their adoptees. I'm a former member of the Canadian Casualty Identification Team, helping to identify soldiers lost in World War I to Korea on up. I have also worked for 7 or 8 years now with WikiTree as a volunteer and also as a leader of the DNA project. Currently, I'm a co-leader of the DNA Integrators project with Peter. So all of the cool new features and tools you see happening at WikiTree, Peter and I are kind of behind getting those running. Peter's kind of the brain, and I kind of make things happen in the background. I think maybe.
I can imagine you making things happen. Yeah.
He can shake his head if he agrees, Peter. Peter, who's lost in the Loblolly Pines there in Georgia. I have other stuff going on. I have a couple of mentoring interns that I'm mentoring. I mentor other genealogy companies who don't have a genetic genealogy component to their industry or their work. I mentor other companies on how to get that started and get that up, and I help train their people on how to do genetic genealogy. And I'm also, I forgot this, one of the biggest components of my business model is that I'm a public speaker. I do a lot of speaking publicly, and especially in my own community here in Ontario. I do a lot of public speaking for free. I do travel all over the world internationally and speak in England and Ireland and the United States as well. So I try and give back to the community as well.
Excellent. And so how do you all work together? How it must be difficult because obviously a lot of you are in Canada, but Canada is a big country. So how do you coordinate things?
We have a lot of fun. I can say that. I was waiting to see if anybody smiled real big when they said, "How do you all work together?" I was waiting to see if everybody started laughing. Yeah.
It is fun though.
Well, it absolutely has to be fun just to keep things going. I know for Mags, I think I'm the highest paid person in the group. So right now I make $0 million. I think Gail, I think you're up to 100,000. So we're all super excited that Mags is so free with the salary increases and stuff. So
it sounds like a mega money spinner. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So you get it done somehow.
Well, we meet on Tuesdays normally. We've been meeting every Tuesday, but since we've just recently been able to get the base of what we had planned for phase 2 up and running, we're moving on to phase 3, which means we'll be meeting the first Tuesday of every month moving forward. But we also have a Trello board for MitoY DNA that you can actually post suggestions to if you'd like. It's public, but we'll be using the Trello board to work, and people can watch how we're working. We really believe in being transparent and open to the public. Our meetings are either really intensive tornadoes of lots of tech talk, or they're really laid back, easygoing. Oh, we got to do this. We got to take care of that. Did you know this? It's really interesting. We have a really good workflow, and we have a really good, I think, relationship within all of us, and we pick on each other constantly. That's the other thing.
Well, that's probably healthy. So Rob, I just want to pick you up on that point. So how do you actually make it work as a free product? I mean, as I understand it, you have a non-profit status. How does that work?
Yeah, so one of the things that we were able to take advantage of is folks like Microsoft. So Microsoft has a system where they actually give you free web services, and we actually were able to take advantage of that. That's almost $6,000 a year that we receive there. We also do receive grants from people, which helps out a lot, and we do accept donations and stuff like that. But we also have so we always take advantage of whatever free capabilities, and luckily there's lots of ways for nonprofits to get things and services for free, and we also take advantage of Google's and Microsoft Office types of things, and then obviously all of us here are volunteers, and we all help out and do things for free because we believe in what we do so much.
Very cool. And I understand it's also possible to support the site via Amazon. Is that right? There's an Amazon Smile option where you can select MightyYDNA as your chosen charity. So that's another way.
It's like we're all bobblehead dolls.
Yeah, it's actually on the
comments or the description if you'd like. Yes.
What's that, Kevin?
We can put a link to that in the comments if anyone would like that too, because that's the easiest way to access that through the link.
I think it's also on the website itself on the front page, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, it's worthy of mention, isn't it? Because I think we all probably have used Amazon Smile occasionally if we shop at Amazon to make donations, but I don't always necessarily remember. So it's good to keep it in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going to move on to talking about the website, if that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Who would like to talk about their favorite part of the website? Anyone have something they'd like to launch into there? Put your hand up.
This is Peter, and my favorite part is the ability to link the Y haplotypes with the direct male line and to link mitotypes with direct maternal lines, and it's happening really well in Wikitree. It's also, you can also link from DNA Painter. You can link to your results on your Y chromosome results or your mitochondrial results. But it's also open to any program that can link to the internet. All it is a URL that you link to, and through that you can actually do comparisons of haplotypes or mitotypes, and you can see how that particular type of Y-DNA or mitochondrial DNA is associated with a direct line.
Very cool. And
that's my favorite part.
It doesn't do SNPs, Peter. Can you tell us about why SNPs aren't handled?
It is if we can find a programmer that's knowledgeable about Y SNPs and like big Y type testing, and is also a programmer that's knowledgeable about that's willing to volunteer, we can do it.
That'd be really cool for the future, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of feeds into my favorite tools are the ones that I'm not programming, but
right.
What's really neat is so we built a good base of tools and features and stuff like that. And we're very open to other people adding additional features, because I find that's the most exciting part is when people come up with new ideas and new ways of making use of this information. It's out there, it's free, accessible, and can be used for so many different purposes. And we've already started looking at some things like moving it into the actual sorry, Max swapped on me, but moving it into the Y clustering, and we've actually added some additional tools. And what's really kind of cool about those are these are now ways we're now integrating a lot of even other open source pieces that were out there and different websites. We're trying to integrate them and pull them into one community supported site. So we've added some new tools at the bottom of the Y tools section, which allows you to do some new features and stuff. So those are what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, Mags just stole my thunder.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, that's fine.
Go for it, Mags.
Well, as I just figured, since Rob was talking about it, I would show that we had the McGee utility and the Y clustering, but I didn't talk about what it was. Gail, please do.
So the McGee utility is a wonderful Y clustering program that has been around long before autosomal clustering became the latest thing. And it's a wonderful tool for comparing genetic distances, for doing time to most recent common ancestor. The other one is part of the Y clustering is part of Rob Spencer's Scaled Innovation site. And so these both of these are great examples of where where we didn't have to write the tools, but we were able to link to existing tools that allow our users to easily navigate to those tools without having to become experts themselves in those tools.
Will you show them to us, Gail?
You've got them up there.
No, I don't have them up there anymore.
Oh, I don't either.
Get them up there.
All right.
If it's easy.
Well, while you're getting up there, my favorite tool is it's called Tracing Back, and although we informally call it the walk or walking through time, and what it is it allows you to specifically trace, your Y results or your mitochondrial results on a migration map, and actually watch how the people who tens of thousands of years ago bore these mutations that ended up being the haplogroups along the way to where you ended up, where they walked across the land of the earth, where they would have lived, and how you got to where you are via your direct paternal or maternal line. That's my favorite because it's interactive and graphic as well. And somebody's got on the screen here.
Mags is showing how it's now 80,000 years ago and how it's walking forward.
And to be clear, we didn't write this. All we did was link to it.
Yep.
And so this is Rob Spencer's work.
Yeah, we integrated it into our system.
Great. So you can just essentially use the haplogroup to link in to the correct page within this tool. That's really cool.
All right, Grail.
Great. Looks like I'm disabled.
You have to go to security, Mags, and enable for.
We can keep the chat going in the meantime. I wonder if anyone wanted to talk about how they actually do their volunteering. What is their role, and is there anything you're particularly proud of in terms of the way that you contribute to the site? I can't speak here because I've only ever done one small piece of JavaScript, so I have to defer to you guys. And
we've already shown your one piece of JavaScript. We just pointed out to anybody.
That's already out of the bag for me.
Here comes Gail with that.
Thanks, Gail. Okay, great.
This is Peter. One of the things that I do is I make suggestions, and I also ask lots of questions, and I try to recruit developers. I've tried to recruit developers who have already done something that are willing to contribute it to the site. So that's been my primary role.
I think the role of making suggestions is extremely important, and most of my site is built on the suggestions of other people. I mean, literally down to almost every detail of it. And I think, I think it's very valuable. So people making sometimes challenging suggestions can be very useful people to have around. Yeah. Okay, so Gail, you're going to take it away.
Here I've done a Y compare that brought up 8 matches to my first kit. And if I click on the McGee utility, MitaY formats everything and puts it in the correct format to be able to paste into the utility. And then here you can see the haplotype table that highlights the differences in the genetic distance and highlights the color that says this is a...
Gail, that pop-up window doesn't show.
Okay.
Probably because you're sharing a particular window. But.
Okay. Here we go. Is that better?
Yep.
Very nice.
Right. So the haplotype table here that shows the genetic distance to the next genetic distance chart is a matrix comparison of each kit to each of the others. That gives the genetic distance and color coded as well. And then the bottom chart is the time to most recent common ancestor and gives a range of generations for that.
And this is a great tool for people who are trying to do comparisons. These matrices, I mean, we're used to those autosomal matrices, but this kind of a matrix in Y is huge, and in mitochondrial.
Right. And one of the nice things about this chart is if you are in an FTDNA project and your match is not showing because it hasn't met the criteria for their matching, you can possibly look on this one and see, oh, he's a genetic distance 4 that wouldn't show up on a 25 test or whatever, and get in touch with that person, because these links are actually live. Are you guys back to my?
Yeah, we're off your screen, but
all right. Okay.
And Gail, it'd be awesome to actually have do a YouTube on this, and that's why hopefully you folks are subscribing.
There are actually 2 YouTube videos of these 2 features, and another one for 2 of the mutation calculator as well that's on MitaY. So visit our YouTube channel.
Great. So I think everyone who's already into YDNA will be very excited about these tools. Sorry, Mags, I don't want to cut you off, but I was going to say, I wondered if someone could succinctly talk about how MitaY helps, I guess, just your average user trying to find their family or the genealogical world in general, because for some people, obviously that's double Dutch. I'm kind of into the Y, so I sort of follow and I'm excited. But
I can say real quick, mine's really fast. My surname is Galden, spelled with an E-N on the end. And I've seen other people with I-N on the end. And I always wondered if we were related. It was only through YDNA testing that I was able to discover that my last name and the people who spell their last name with the I-N, we are very much related. And our surname started out in the 1600s in Virginia as Galding, I-N-G. So just having a YDNA test and being able to see that helped verify a lot of the information that I was seeing. And it actually helped me push my brick wall ancestors back quite a bit when I realized that I needed to be looking for Galding because of the YDNA test. Somebody else?
I would also like to add that there are a lot of people that have tested with other labs than Family Tree DNA, and you're able to actually do comparisons. It doesn't matter which haplotype or which haplotype results you have from which lab, they are compatible with each other, and we can compare between labs. There's also there's scientific research where they are doing they're recovering Y chromosomes and mitochondrial DNA from archaeological remains, and we're able to compare with that. That's something you can't do at Family Tree DNA, is to easily compare with those those samples that are from archaeological sites.
Very
So
cool.
if you look at our statistics, you can see for the Y test companies that we currently have. I mean, yes, FTDNA is the biggest, gorilla in the room, but we do have lots of ancestry old tests. We have tests from YSeq, we have tests from Sorensen, Oxford, Genobase, Nat Geo, and others that include those archaeological kits that Peter just mentioned.
Cool. Now, Gail, I understand there's a slight oddity with the Sorensen kits. Is it true that sometimes after you enter it in, the DYS values are not the same as what you entered? Could you tell us about that?
Yes, some of the DNA test companies use different standards to determine and report their DYS values on the Y chromosome. And so in MitaY DNA, we use standard conversions to tweak those reported values into a common standard so that we're comparing apples to apples. If you look at the help page for the manual entry, you'll see some links to those conversions and how we do those.
Very cool. Thank you very much for that. I just wanted to make that clear.
Related to that, it's important that if the other day, we had someone upload, it's tempting to make yourself like a 40 marker kit if you've tested with 2 of these companies and try to combine them. But then what you're going to happen is you're going to miss the nuances of having those conversions done by telling us which company you tested with. So it's always better to upload one at a time, and rather than try to engineer a
Frankenstein.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll miss the necessary conversions in the matches. You'll be getting less accurate matches rather than more accurate.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's so much, the autosomal has exploded in terms of the numbers. So I think some people, when they make their first forays into Y-DNA testing and they pay up just a few more dollars, they don't necessarily have the background to go along with it. So it's really useful to have a kind of a site that's friendly, that has a team of who can support it and explain that kind of thing.
And part of the issue of people coming from autosomal is that they often think, well, I'm testing more spots, so I should be getting more matches, and that the actual opposite is true. And so, and that's the power of the Y-DNA, is you're getting more very much specific matches and very much more detail. So that's actually beneficial. But for people coming from autosomal, they're thinking, well, I got more SNPs, for example, for autosomal. Why am I not getting more matches? But that's ultimately the goal, is to narrow things down into a small area and stuff.
Oh, sure. More matches isn't always what you want, actually, is it? You want better matches. Possible.
Like with my surname, I didn't need to have 1,000 matches to show me that my surname was actually something else. Did anybody else have a Y-DNA story they wanted to share?
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually had the same sort of thing. We've had questions whether or not the Warthin with an R also came from Wathan without an R. And there's rumors of that happened. I actually had a friend of mine who we did not match on autosomal. Well, he's a friend of mine because I got to know him. But he had the last name of Wathan. And I'm like, please take a Y-DNA test. Let's see how that actually works. And so he took a Y-DNA test, and we found, yes, we actually are very related. Similarly, we had one of my people who got me into this, Charles Warthin, from California. He actually he got me to take tests because he was trying to find out, does his Warthin come from Maryland, because he could only trace him back to Kansas. Well, when I tested and came in and tested and was able to, because mine clearly came from Maryland, because my folks went to Maryland, came into Maryland, went to Maryland, and then moved to Maryland. So we've been here forever. But he was able to, using Y-DNA, confirm that we were the same match. So now that taking that Wathan match, Y-DNA match, and the Warthin match from there, we all know we probably came over to the US as Wathan. Similarly, we've been looking for Walton. We thought Walton might be the same. There's rumors that they would be the same names. So far, we haven't seen any Waltons, Walton, come in. So that kind of disproves that theory, that maybe we aren't related.
Very cool. I'm always jealous of people who have surname lists. They take a Y test and they see their surname there, because I've never done that. But I do actually have a very brief Y story for you myself, which is that when I was very new to DNA, I was still really at the heights of my interest in family history, and my grandfather's brother had written this very kind of scandalously gossipy kind of 7-page history, which he'd sent to his sister. But amazingly, it all kind of checked out. I was doing this late night research into the census of Posen in 1870, and it all checked out. They did have these cousins with these names. And anyway, one of the things he said was that, actually, when you go back however many generations, Napoleon's brother, Jerome Bonaparte, he came to this town and he met this nice looking Jewish girl, and she quickly had to marry her cousin to cover it up. But really, he's our father, and we're all the bastard children of Jerome Bonaparte. So in the context of this other document, I thought, well, maybe this is true. But then I thought, well, how would I ever prove it? But then I found that they had got some beard hairs out of Napoleon's helmet and they'd sequenced them. So I was like, well, I can actually prove it. I have to stump up a little bit of money. So I'll do that. And guess what? That's completely incorrect. We are not the bastard children of Jerome Bonaparte. So that was good to know. So for me, early on, that was just something really concrete that I got out of Y-DNA. But then subsequent to that, because my Y line is Jewish, obviously Jewish people only really got surnames around the 1790s. I haven't had that great. If a lot of English people, when they test, they can see roots in a particular village with the same name or variations of the name, and I envy those people, but that's okay.
One of the things that we want to do in phase 3 is add tools and add information, but there's lots of stuff that we're going to add to the site too. One of them that I'm looking forward to is being able to query haplogroups based on geographic location, to like squirrel down to, so all of my weird subclades are only in York County, South Carolina, kind of thing. So that's one of the things. You were going to say something?
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, related to the villages. I mean, that's one of the things I got out of my Y-DNA with the Borlands. I mean, very similar to Rob. I found where in Scotland my Borlands were from based on who else had tested, and actually visited there and actually found some like remnants of the Borlands having been there, some signs and things like that. But what's neat also you could do, and again in terms of the villages, and I had started doing this on YSearch way back, and this is one of the reasons why I like that site and why I'm excited about MITA Y-DNA, is you could also, everybody thinks Y-DNA and you think of your own paternal line, but there's no reason to limit yourself to that. You know, if you do targeted testing and, you know, if my mother's paternal line, you know, if I can get an uncle or my, you know, my Forbes family or my, you know, my family from Poland or whatever, could all, you know, if you target those, you could learn about a lot of where, you know, where your male ancestors of male and female ancestors all around your tree were from and what villages. Plus for people who are adopted, I mean, sometimes they don't know a surname, and Y also acts sort of as a genetic surname in an ideal world. Sometimes your matches don't cluster to a surname, but a lot of times, you know, that's the first time an adopted person might know what their genetic surname is when they're tested.
So I have one Y-DNA story, or Y-DNA, that so that the surname French is English.
Nice.
And I do want to mention when Kevin mentioned adoptees finding surnames, that does happen a lot. And so that's the one advantage that males have. But I do want to say that's probably only about 50% and sometimes lower. So don't get your hopes up. But if you're a male adoptee and don't know your biological father's surname, that is definitely a place to look and to look research and stuff like that. So.
Has anybody got a big mitochondrial story? Fun story? Johnny? I do want to tell you, Johnny, you're being one-upped in the group. We've got Jack says that he's a relative of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, well, he wins, I think. That's okay.
Because you're not related to anybody important, right?
No, I'm just me.
I have a mitochondrial story. What I've discovered, I do the Bahamas DNA Project because that's where I was born and raised. And we've tested some close to 200 people on the mitochondrial. Half of them who have tested, half of them that are of European descent, descend from 6 women that lived early in Bahamian history, before genealogical records in the 1600s or the early 1700s. These 6 women are the direct female line ancestors of half of the people that have taken a mitochondrial test that are of European descent.
Amazing. Very cool. Okay, well, unless anyone has another Y story to throw on us, what I was going to do is maybe talk about the public and how they interface with the site and what crowdsourced really means. So how has the public helped you as a team, and how have they helped the site? Anyone?
Go ahead,
Peter. Mags.
No, you please after you, Peter. Please.
Okay, so the public, how they add to the site is by adding their own data to the site, and they also the people that have contributed software utilities and tools to help build the site. But it's really the people that are donating, in a sense, contributing their mitochondrial DNA information and their Y chromosome information, and so that it's to make it accessible. Because when it's at a customer database, it's not really that easy to compare your DNA with that lab's DNA, unless the person you're comparing with tested at that lab. So it makes it a whole lot easier. And plus, there are some of the people that test with family tree DNA. Some of the data is public, and you can go to a table of the haplotypes. But actually, it's very laborious trying to actually find a match within that table. But if the data is in MITA Y-DNA, it's very simple. And soon, I hope we'll be able to search against GenBank's mitochondrial database and other public databases that are enormous.
Yeah, we're hoping to incorporate GenBank actually into MITA Y as part of our phase 3. Rob's nodding his head because he knows he's got lots of work to do on that. for sure. The other thing is we have a really great MITA-Y-DNA Facebook users group, and we get lots of feedback and information from that. We also get emails into our info@mitayDNA.org email. We do have lots of input. We had lots of input before we even really got started well. A lot of the leaders in the genetic genealogy community were giving us unsolicited but very much appreciated ideas to help us formulate how we needed to set up things like the nonprofit. Lots of information about what they wanted to see on the site, how they wanted the design to work, and how fluid the UE was going to be. So we've had lots and lots and lots of public help, and we look forward to having lots more public help as well.
Plus, at the live events, we've had some volunteers help us at the booths, and I know that's not a thing right now, but I'm assuming it will be again at some point in the future. My mom helped for a long time too at the booth at Salt Lake last year, but we had a lot of volunteers help out with that, and we really appreciate it when people donate their time as well.
That's another example of the community helping us. RootsTech actually gave us that booth so that we could actually talk to people in the community and stuff like that, and that was very nice of RootsTech. But that's part of our nonprofit capabilities, is being able to take advantage of cheaper booths and/or free booths.
Right. And Leanne was, just to point that out, Leanne was able to, Leanne, who is our communications director, she has reached out to people and gotten us into things that we really appreciate. She's really doing a good job with that. I wanted to share my screen just to show real quick just what the site looks like, just really quick for people. So the site, this is how the site looks. And this is my dad's matches. And one of these people, I believe, is Tsar Nicholas. I think this one is Tsar Nicholas right here. So my dad is for 37 tests, he's a pretty close match. But there's also, I mean, if you go to the homepage, you can see that we have a link to the YouTube channel. We've got a link to our frequently asked questions page. We obviously have a donate button right there front and center for people to donate to help support us so we can stay free and open. There is a Chrome extension for Chrome to be able to upload MITA-Y-DNA information. If you are using Safari or one of the other types of browsers, you can upload your information manually. On the About page, if you want to see about our team, we have information about what we are, our mission statement. We have a page for our team, and we also have a page for some of our sponsors. That page needs a little bit of work yet. So if you want to find out specifics about our information about who we are and what's driving our process, you can certainly see that. We have a very good, robust terms of service and privacy. And up here at the frequently asked questions, you can see what tests we take so far, Nat Geo 1. You can also get into information like our fun statistics page, which is one of the pages that I like the most. But it's a very easy to access and easy to navigate. All you have to do is follow the information up here. When you're on the kids pages, you can actually go and look at information like this is for my dad. I can look at his kit. It's very easy. It's very, very easy to do. So I just wanted to show that because there was a question in the chat about a couple of things. I just wanted to throw that up so people could see it.
Very good. And in terms of suggestions, I gather you guys are very open to suggestions from the public. We talked about the Facebook group. Is there any other ways that people can make suggestions and have those reach the team?
So info at mitayDNA.org is our email address, and that's another way to get it in if you don't want to publicly post it on Facebook. Facebook obviously is the best because that's a way for people to communicate and say, yeah, I like that idea. Or don't.
Sure,
like
there
that.
can be some discussion and kind of affirmation. Yeah. Very
and
cool.
on the YouTube tutorials too. I mean, you could leave comments on there. I mean, we're certainly going to read every one of them. So if you go through a tutorial and see, I don't understand this, or this could be something we could improve, leave a comment, so we could see what you're talking about visually too, if you do it that way.
Mags, you're talking, but we can't hear you at the moment.
Oh, I should turn that on. We have a question from Jenny who says neither uploaded mitochondrial DNA data or Y-DNA data have any matches. Is that unusual, and is it just because it's a new database? Who wants that one? Raise your hand. Kevin.
That is the whole value of a crowdsourced database. I mean, the community is the value. If you want more matches, you got to share these videos and share the information about the site and get people to upload. And it's growing organically. It's growing quite quickly. But the more people share it and the more people upload their data, especially, if you know anybody that had any interesting old ancestry tests and Sorensen to upload, because you won't find them in the FTDNA database, for example. But yeah, that's the power of crowdsourcing. I mean, sharing it through the community is the best way that it's one of the best ways that people could help out with this organization.
And I will mention that it's not automatically immediate that the matching is done. Sometimes it takes overnight. Sometimes it's within minutes and stuff like that. Y-DNA is actually matched pretty quickly, typically. But mitochondrial DNA does take a little bit more processing power behind the scenes to be so check back a day later or a week later, something like that, because there's also always new people uploading. So it may not match, you may not find matches now, but you might find matches a week from now or a month from now. So
yeah, it's exactly like autosomal testing. You never know who's going to test, and it's going to show up, oh, I've now got a second cousin that's or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, maybe a nice feature in the future as the database gets bigger would be to have email alerts when there is a match. That'd be really cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be.
Of, engaging people, because one of the great things about this site is that ultimately, hopefully, we'll be able to encourage more people to take Y and mitochondrial tests, because traditionally, obviously, they've been very expensive and people have shied away from it. But obviously, they can be incredibly useful. So,
mitochondrially, for me taking a mitochondrial test, I was able to push back my mitochondrial earliest known ancestor back 4 generations.
Incredible.
And I had to use an autosomal match who matched me, who also had a mitochondrial match to me, and that was like the perfect storm. So it was really good. Yeah, we'll have to look into that, Rob. There was a question again. I'll tell you, Robert, if you want to go to the frequently asked questions, you'll see more information about how to get your download from companies like FTDNA. I noticed you had a question pop up.
Very good. Now, I actually don't have any other questions prepared. I'm kind of on my mind is what is the future of Y and mitochondrial testing? But obviously that's probably a bigger question than we have time for in the 7 minutes. But if there's anything else anyone wanted to chime in with, please go ahead. Or if we have any other questions from the floor.
Well, one of the things we related to mitochondria we're starting to look into. So we're actually able to upload manual mitochondrial DNA. That's a relatively new feature. But part of the changes to that is sometimes people only have HVR1, sometimes they have HVR2, sometimes they don't even have, they have all the different SNPs, but not all of the values. So they may have some partial ones. So we're actually right now looking at how do we partially match people to see. So if you don't have all the values, where that happens all the time in autosomal, but for mitochondrial, that's kind of a relatively new thing because we've typically had either HVR1, HVR2, or everything. So that's a new feature that we're looking at and hopefully going to be implementing soon to show that. But that's one of our exciting new areas that we're working on.
Leanne, do you have some questions coming in from YouTube you wanted to add? Unmute.
I have to unmute in 2 places, so it takes me just a second. Yeah, there is one. Robert's asking, there is a FASTA download is this the same? I think they're talking about FTDNA, MTD. Okay, Peter, you want to answer?
No. Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, so the FASTA, what you want is the C. I believe the file is called CRS or CVS or something like that.
Or CRS and
CRS. That's what you want to download.
And yes, not,
it's in the instructions.
Not the FASTA file. Rob, do you want to talk about the FASTA file?
Yeah, so the FASTA file actually does have a lot of information. If we have folks out there who actually understand the FASTA file very well, and again, it's a matter of time for us. We have only a certain number of people, so if we had somebody who could understand the FASTA file. So for those who don't understand what a FASTA file is, the FASTA file actually shows the genetic sequence just directly from one, as much as they have. And what happens is you sometimes have insertions and sometimes have deletions. So you have to write a utility that understands that information. That we haven't written that utility yet, but if we had somebody who could write that utility and figure out what are the insertions and what are the deletions, we could then actually implement that into our application and take a FASTA file. So that's why we don't currently take FASTA files into our application. But we are looking at doing that. Those are certainly things that we would love to be able to do.
Yeah, that could be phase 4 even for us.
There's one issue that people need to be aware about with the mitochondrial DNA is that we're currently storing the data as differences from the revised Cambridge reference sequence, not the RSRS. And that's because there's a lot of legacy data out there that is in the RCRS, or the revised Cambridge reference sequence. And so in order to compare with that legacy data, you need to be sure that when you do a manual upload for mitochondrial DNA, that you don't, when you go to family tree DNA, by default, it's the RSRS, and you need to click the tab that says RCRS. And so that just needs to be clear.
And just to be very specific, we actually store the actual values, but we're actually reporting on our CRS. And when you're entering, as Peter said, manually, we're actually expecting our CRS values to be entered. That RSRS was always something that people were moving towards, but nobody seemed to actually moved completely. So it seems like RCRS is still more of the popular way. So that's why we chose that right now. But that is something that we would probably eventually add as RSRS, so you can actually see and or enter both of those versions. But we're trying to keep things relatively simple right now.
Right. We're building we have a good base, and we're building on that base. We're doing DNA right.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
That's our motto. That's our fight song, is we're doing DNA right.
Leanne, did we have any more questions on the YouTube at all? Okay. Well, we're sort of nearing the end of our time potentially, aren't we? Is there anything else anyone would like to come in with before we wrap things up?
I already did mine. We're doing DNA right.
Yeah, so. You managed to get that in there. I'm very proud of you.
One of the things that I want, it's been mentioned very briefly before, some of the things that we link directly to. Ann Turner donated her mutation calculator, and JD McDonald donated his time to the most recent common ancestor calculator. Those are both, we have YouTube videos for those, but they're very powerful tools that haven't been haven't been accessible on the internet. At least the Ann Turner's hasn't been accessible because of a glitch, and now it's accessible again. And also the Dean McGee's Y utilities, those having your data in MitoYDNA and just doing a click and you've got the data already in Dean McGee's utilities, it's simple. Whereas before, sometimes you had to do a manual entry, or you had to open up your spreadsheet and then dump it in. It was really quite complicated. It's a heck of a lot easier now.
And there are videos on this channel that will help you. Yes, Gail.
And it's probably one of the only places where you can see easily if you're related to King Richard III.
There we go.
Yay.
His DNA is in our database.
And we are doing DNA right.
Okay. Shall we all sign off and say thanks everyone for watching, and thank you all for coming today, and see you another time. Take care.
Bye.